And now let's move on to a presentation here on stage about building the future autonomic network with an open cloud ecosystem. And to do that, please welcome here on stage President and Chief Technology Officer of MyCom OSI, Mr. Munir Ladki. Together with the Head of Global Technology Alliances, Telecommunications, Amazon Web Services, give it up for Mr. Amir Rao.
What we'd like to present to you now with my colleague Amir Rao from AWS is in fact present to you the way the telecom operators today can transform and seize opportunities in the digital world, and one of the key ingredients that will give them the agility, the flexibility to innovate and to capture these opportunities that we were talking about this morning. And we, as MyCom OSI, have been partnered with AWS, and which is a very interesting convergence right now of software, telecom, and cloud technologies that are coming together to open up this new, basically, ecosystem and enable this innovation we've been talking about. So first, in terms of the opportunities, I will not repeat again what has been discussed this morning with the massive opportunities in the digital world. And I would like to basically here refer to a report developed by the World Economic Forum on the digital transformation initiative of the telco vertical. And if we look at the amount of additional value that can be created in one single decade, and this is not about additional revenues, but additional operating profits that the telecom industry can generate, over $1 trillion over a 10-year period. And that is a mix of additional value creation from the revenue streams that were discussed this morning around all the new digital services that the operators would be able to offer in areas such as IoT, for example. But, and this has been covered a lot this morning, and we heard about different initiatives and different ideas right now being developed by the telecom operators. But there is also another big portion which accounts for $320 billion that is right now an enabler for these additional revenue streams, and at the same time can provide significant, massive, significant cost savings in two key areas. One of them is what we call the software-defined networks, which are the networks of tomorrow that will be more intelligent, that will be self-optimized, where operations will be software-defined as opposed to manual today, and that will enable massive CapEx and OpEx savings to the tune of $220 billion in a decade, for this industry. And the other side of it is really the zero-touch operation, where we move a lot of the manual, cumbersome, under-optimized processes right now, covered by, the human factor, and we move it and we automate it. We make it software-defined, and in which case we can achieve here again massive efficiencies and cost saving, both in terms of the OpEx and the CapEx. And so this gives us not only a fantastic economic returns, but also gives us the agility and the flexibility to innovate in this new world. Now that is obviously the opportunity, but then if we look in terms of to realize this opportunity, each operator has to move to become a provider of real-time, on-demand digital services, and these real-time, on-demand digital services will come at a cost and at a challenge, which is the massive complexity and the web scale, volumes and networks and devices and services that will need to be managed. And here I'm just giving some example. Today, for example, in a typical telco environment, we as consumers or as enterprises can choose in a catalog of a limited number of services that are launched maybe with a cycle of every few months. Whereas in this new world, these new services would need to be created every minute, sometimes in demand to events that are happening with the consumers, or real-time demands from the enterprises and so on. So the number of services is going to explode, as well as the real-time nature of the service that will become a reality. And that will come also with the increase of data, a massive increase of data. I mean, you realize that here one connected car, for example, will generate as much data as 3,000 subscribers, so consumers. So imagine the amount of data that will need to be managed there. And that will come also with a massive increase in the density of the networks. So that will mean that you will have, the amount of data and the amount of density and complexity that is going to be managed will increase by several folds compared to today. And that cannot be managed by humans. It is impossible for this to be managed in the same way as networks are operated today. This will need to be automated. And the networks that will be agile and orchestrated will have to, will introduce several thousands of changes per day, so will be highly dynamic and will need to be managed in real time. At the same time, with all these complexities, with all these issues, SLAs have to be much, much more stringent than today. So the availability levels expected of these networks and the reliability are much higher than we have today. Last week I was in London, and I don't know if you heard about it, but the core network of O2, Telefonica, crashed, and we had a blackout on data across the entire of the UK for several hours. And it had the government had to intervene, etc. Now imagine if this network was connecting the fire alarms that Etisalat spoke about it just a few minutes ago. Imagine if this was, we had like remote surgeries happening at the same time and so on and so forth. The consequences would be dramatic. So that's why this automation, moving to a new paradigm based around automation, intelligence, and softwareization is just absolutely mandatory. And that is why the way forward is around automation and AI. And why it is here a reality, because it's starting to be embraced by some of the leading operators around the world. AT&T today are talking about AI as a reality, that artificial intelligence will drive the automation of these networks. Deutsche Telekom is talking about brutal automation. They want just to go enforce the automation. We just spoke about the needed cultural change, right, to adopt digital transformation. Well, sometimes, some operators will want just to force it. And in operators such as BT, for example, they're talking about the need for it ASAP, i.e. automation, the marriage of automation and AI to completely change the way networks are operated today. And we believe that the way forward for this is a concept that we call the autonomic networks and operations. Because they start by these networks and operations of the future will need to be driven by digital experiences, optimized for digital experiences, not customer experience. Because today we think of customer experience in terms of a consumer having their phone and needing a seamless, for example, video streaming service. Tomorrow, networks will have to cater for various digital experiences. Some of it will cater for the digital experience required by a connected, for example, self-driven car is different than an experience that is required by someone who is watching a movie, or by, for example, an enterprise running an SD-WAN, consuming SD-WAN type services. So that's number one. And this, for example, will be catered by this multiplicity of 5G slices, for example, per tenant, that will address these various digital experiences. Then it has to be orchestrated and automated from an end-to-end perspective. Yeah, the networks will have to be automated at service level so that the network can react, can understand and interpret the level of this digital experience, and then can adapt itself and change itself to always maintain that digital experience at an optimal level. Then these networks will need to rely massively on artificial intelligence to be at the same time predictive and adaptative, i.e. they will need to predict events before they happen, and then they will need these networks as well to continue learning and the operations continuously, because automation is good. But if automation is written by humans, like it's just about rules and automation scenarios written by people, then what happens when new devices will become connected to the network? What happens when new services will be delivered? These new rules will need to be written again. It's impossible. You need intelligence and software that can learn from these patterns automatically. This is what Netflix does, for example. And this is why Facebook have got a team of about 10, 15 people to run their NOC in the Southeast Asia, while one single operator in Asia has somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 staff to do the same. This is what makes the difference. And finally, these networks and operations will be optimized to deliver on shareholder value, just because they will deliver the economic returns that we spoke about in the future. And that will require, these autonomic networks at the heart of them will require a brain. And we heard it also, I think, in the Accenture presentation, that there is a platform, an intelligence and a decision-making platform that we call a brain that sits at the heart of this autonomic network and will act as the kind of the decision-making engine that will drive this autonomic network. Instead of having this scattered across 10 teams of 150 people each talking to each other with all the complexities, the latencies, and the silos that do exist between them. And because the AI, the artificial intelligence, sits is a key enabler of this, then the public cloud, right, the scalability, the flexibility, and the agility provided by the public cloud becomes a must. Why? Because you as an operator, as an Etisalat, or as a Do, or as an Alpha, or as an Orange, and so on, you cannot, going forward, build only an intelligence that is proper to you and use it to manage these services. In the world of artificial intelligence, the intelligence of the algorithms needs to be built from global knowledge that will be shared across multiple operators. So being in the public cloud gives the scalability, the flexibility, and the agility to really nurture, grow, teach these artificial intelligence algorithms, and then help them to deliver to develop a level of intelligence that is sophisticated enough to run these networks. And that is why right now we have been collaborating with AWS and also with our partners, Red Hat, to provide a complete new paradigm of solutions where you have an infrastructure, you have the scalability and the openness, the flexibility, the agility provided by the cloud, by AWS, with the open APIs, the open source, and the DevOps processes that ensure the agility, again, and here, the agility of the operations. And this is also thanks to our partnership with Red Hat. And on top, we can have the intelligence of the solutions and then the applications delivered to the various vertical. So here I would like to pass it on to Amir, who is representing AWS with their new Telco business unit. Amir, can you please tell us a little bit about also the value, your value proposition to the telco industry and how you're making such partnerships happen?
Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. It's great to be back here in Dubai, in the region where I started my career. So first of all, Munir, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I think before I delve into the details of what's the AWS value proposition for the telecommunications industry, I think there are three words on this screen right now. It talks about innovation, it talks about scalability, it talks about risk management, and it talks about real-time automation. So if you put all of this together in any kind of formula, the result will be public cloud, regardless of whichever public cloud provider you're going to choose. Because that's how you're mitigating your risk, that's how you're innovating faster, that's how a question was asked just now in this panel about whether we should do the innovation in-house or whether we should actually rely on OEM partners and ecosystem for that innovation. I mean, imagine when you're relying on somebody as big, as innovative as Amazon or AWS for your innovation, because then you are staying ahead of the curve. But before we do that, what's at the core of AWS in general, across all industry verticals, is this philosophy of Mr. Bezos. And I'm sure you probably would like to see him more than you'd like to see me. The whole Amazon business is built on three principles. Think long term, keep inventing, and keep the customers closest. So this probably seems cliche, but I would strongly encourage everybody in this room. There is something called Amazon Leadership Principles. It's publicly available. It's 14 leadership principles, and Jeff Bezos writes a shareholder letter every year. Have a look at it. At Amazon, at AWS, we live by the customer obsession. That's the first principle. We don't do anything, and I mean it, we don't do anything if we can't see market demand for it. So that's where it all starts. So the foundation of the question, Munir, that you asked me, what is our strategy towards? We have seen significant shift in the last 12 to 18 months in the way telecom industry has approached public cloud. There was resistance, which has shielding away. It has completely shielded away in US, where we are, it's public knowledge, we are the preferred supplier for Verizon. It's a massive, close to $1 billion deal between Verizon and AWS. AT&T, T-Mobile, the tier 1 suppliers. Then you go to Australia, Telstra, Vodafone, you name it. So the resistance or the perceived perception of friction has completely gone away or considerably gone away in the last 12 to 18 months. So talking about customer obsession, what have we heard in the last 12 to 18 months which has helped us formulate a dedicated ring-fenced go-to-market strategy, as Munir put it, telecom business unit at Amazon Web Services. So what we have heard from our customers is they want new service and business model. If you recap 5 hours since 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. till now, we've heard there's going to be one thing that we have heard is there's going to be a lot new services available. We don't know exactly which use cases will cut it, but we do know that use cases will be beyond connectivity. They will be beyond connectivity. We'll be talking about innovative new revenue streams. We'll be talking about products that are supposed to get better because that is the only way we're going to enhance the lifetime value of our customers. What we have heard from our service provider customers and all tier 1s and tier 2s across the world is the fact that they need to monetize the customer relationships. Because if you think about the whole value chain, especially in the construct of OTT game, one thing that cannot change is that you guys, the service providers, they own the last mile customer relationship. And that's a prized asset that you need to monetize. And that is where, once again, we think that we can help you monetize that relationship. Increased efficiency, we've talked about, and this is one of the reasons that I'm here today to support our strategic technology partner, MyCom OSI, because that efficiency cannot be achieved in the data-driven world without having intelligent operations, intelligent orchestration, and complete automation, the way tomorrow you will create those network slices. Because come to think of it, do we really think that we're going to create network slices? No. We're going to create service slices. There was discussion a lot about, smart cities, educational, hospitality sector. So every time you'll spin and create a network slice end-to-end in 5G, you'll be creating it for a specific service. You'll need to orchestrate the devices all the way from the user equipment terminal right to the brain, to the billing engine, to the point where you're going to provision those devices completely autonomously and automatically. And that's what we've heard from our customers. So based on this slide would summarize how AWS looks at the telecommunications industry vertical in general. So first and foremost, we are looking at data transformation. There is that explosion of data. I don't need to go into numbers, whether you believe Accenture's numbers or McKinsey's numbers or my number or anybody's number. One thing is for sure. It's going to get to that point where it's simply not be possible for us to manage that data within our consolidated private data centers. So that's where AWS can really come in and help liberate you, the service providers, as well as help you monetize that data, whether it's the subscriber data, whether it's your network data, or whether it's the process data. Because you can achieve both the efficiency, which will help you on your bottom line, as well as you can create new services which will help you on your top line. Moving on, so a question that we often get, are we going to be doing something about telecom? What does telecom BU means? I mean, it means nothing. All it means is that we work with technology providers such as MyCom OSI, technology providers such as the traditional equipment providers, the VNF providers of the world, the BSS solution providers of the world, to help them orchestrate their solutions on AWS in a cloud native fashion. So basically working extremely closely with the ecosystem, the ISVs, the software vendors of the world, of the industry, to help them serve your needs. Because we believe that telecom industry needs ready-to-consume solutions. That's a very important tenet of our strategy. Now, why? Because the customer experience, the AI, ML, there's been a lot of discussion on that, whether you refer to the blockchain example given by earlier in this room, or you talk about any of the smart city application or autonomous driving, autonomous vehicle, you name it. There is a lot of AI ML that is going to get executed at the edge, but then those machine learning models have to be trained somewhere. Where are they going to get trained? Where you have all the data, where you have all the contextual information. And that's where we come in with our value proposition. You move on to automation from a process, OSS, BSS. This is a big transformation that the industry is going to take over. There's going to be substantial movement. And once again, I'll go back to my analogy that we will not be creating network slices in 5G. Whoever thinks so, my humble opinion, they should reconsider. Because we will be creating service slices. We'll be creating service revenue assurance. We'll be creating service quality assurance for a specific use case, for a specific customer, whether it's B2B or B2B2C. And that's where the significant shift is going to happen. And the sooner that we embrace it as an industry, the better it will be. And the better prepared we will be able to monetize that. 5G. What's the million-dollar question on 5G? How are we going to monetize it as an industry? Does anybody in this room knows how we're going to monetize 5G? There are opinions. There's no definitive answer. We're all looking at the crystal ball and predicting, okay, is it going to be autonomous vehicle? But yes, it may be autonomous vehicle, but when will the legislation come? When will we have predictive maintenance? Okay, yes, we may have precision surgeries, but when will health authorities allow us to do precision surgeries on the back of 5G connectivity? So there are a lot of questions. Our approach is, and our suggestion to the industry is, let's build 5G infrastructure so that we can maximize our chances of success as an industry. Which is, let us build it in a way so that we can bring the ecosystem of ISVs and developers, that public cloud providers, specifically what AWS has created in this last 10-year journey, that we can bring it to leverage and support and use your network as an API, as a platform, rather than as pure connectivity bundle. Time's probably gone to sell connectivity data bundles. If we're still thinking of selling data bundles in 5G domain, I think we need to reevaluate our strategy. And lastly, the whole B2B and B2C channels. I mean, we have got AWS Marketplace, which is the world's largest marketplace for digital products and services. That's how we want to leverage it and channelize, because the service providers, they own the customer relationships, whether it's B2B relationships or SMB relationships. Now, with that being said, I'd take a pause and we'll go back to the second pillar, which is the technology partnerships. And that is why I'm here today, to support our relationship with MyCom OSI. So we generally have 4 stages of a technology partnership at AWS. This goes, and we've got hundreds of thousands of technology partners, no exaggeration. SAP, Netflix, Ericsson, Nokia, you name it, from across the vertical and across the industry. So what is the classical journey of an ISV partner? And quite frankly, a telco service provider like an Etisalat or an Adu could also be a technology partner for AWS. So generally we start from a project base where you start playing with DevOps environment. And then you graduate into a more foundation strategy where you have decided that AWS is going to be your platform of choice. Then you move to that large scale migrations, which is a stage of maturity where you've decided that, okay, I'm going to go, my architecture will be cloud native. And cloud native doesn't mean virtual. There is a lot of difference between virtual applications running on any kind of virtual architecture and a cloud native, because when you're talking cloud native, you're talking about microservices based architecture that gives you that horizontal scaling ability. So we are already at that stage with MyCom OSI. And what we are trying to do now, together with MyCom OSI and what Munir shared with you in terms of autonomic networks, is basically leverage the power of AI and machine learning of AWS and the massive data lakes that we've got in collaboration with MyCom OSI to be able to create and reinvent the application so that we offer new solutions that can help you monetize your products. And very last at the end, I mean, this is not all fiction. We've got a real case study. And Munir, why don't you talk about that? Thank you.
Amir. Thank you very much. So very quickly to show you a case study here in the form of a joint customer. So 3 in the UK, Hutchison 3G is one of the major mobile operators in the UK, and it's a very interesting case study because their stated objective is to become the first fully virtualized and cloudified network in the UK, and they have like some major objectives there. I'll share in a second, but you know they are right now one of the most successful mobile operators. So what they wanted is to completely shift their operating model. You know their objective, they want to be the most loved brand in the UK by 2022, the most loved brand. They want to double their revenue within a 5 years span, and they want to improve the net promoter score by 40 basis points. Yeah. Quite ambitious objectives, and they decided to move completely to this concept of an automated software-defined telco running an autonomic network with DevOps operations in the public cloud. And so they have moved all the data. We are providing them with this brain of the autonomic network, with a solution that is mixing service assurance, analytics, and automation all together, running on AWS, managing both their legacy network and their new virtual network, and the sheer services that they are delivering. So this solution is running today in AWS. It has a PaaS, a platform as a service delivered by our partners Red Hat, and then the MyCom OSI, service assurance, and brain capabilities running on top. And you see some of the solutions that the customer that 3UK will be able to benefit from. This range from automated onboarding of the services and the customers, automated of course, like automated telco cloud orchestration, predictive maintenance, automated root cause analysis. So the network at some point, and these are delivered in stages, at some point really the objective is to move towards a complete zero-touch type of operations, managing dynamically a very large number of digital services that will be created instantly on demand and carried mostly by 5G slices. And this is the same stack. It will be also leveraged across other operators. Just to give you an example, we're running right now a very interesting POC on machine learning, on AI, with one of the largest US telecom operators. And right now, we have been able to discover 75% of whatever correlation rules were built by humans over the years to manage the network. So just imagine the potential that is lying ahead of us. It's just unbelievable. And that kind of collaboration and that kind of stack and the collaboration with AWS, the agility, the flexibility, the scalability, and the power of AI and the power of data monetization will allow the telecom operators, hopefully, in partnership with us, to transform and to achieve this kind of business outcomes that we're talking about here. Massive amount of automation, substantial increase of revenue, and also a diversification of the business and brand and much more value added to the brand. And this is the outcomes that we're aiming for, and hopefully we'll be able to partner with all our customers to deliver more of that going forward. With that said, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Amir.